You're live.
Welcome to Culture Warriors Unchained. This is episode numero dos, second episode. This is a brand new podcast featuring myself, AK Kamara, David Webster, and Drew Outstanding. We are, I guess, adventuring on this new podcast idea where we want to try and make a mixture of news, culture, politics, but specifically with a Minnesota angle. We're not going to just focus on Minnesota, but Minnesota, I think, has like a huge gap of actually any really culturally relevant podcasts that are going on a large scale. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade at any of the podcasts that are going on in Minnesota. Shout out to Michelle Tafoya. Shout out to Liz Collin. Shout out to the Professor Penn podcast. There's other podcasts going on, but nothing like this. We want to take you on a little bit of a tour of what goes on from our perspective. We have three, I think, very unique perspectives. So to get things going, my name's AK Kamara. I am actually the Republican National Committee man for the state of Minnesota. I know that this is going to get tiring, but I think it's important to try and explain to people what that means very shortly. I actually am one of the 168 members that make up the Republican Party of the United States. Yes, that's correct. The way that I am one of the highest ranking members of the Republican Party, and I represent the state of Minnesota. And I create content. I have a TikTok. I go on X and post a bunch of fire memes. I like to ish post, as the kids say these days. And I hope to be able to provide some meaningful insight from a very political perspective, but I'm also just a normal dude that loves like anime and Christian hip hop. I'm going to kick it over to David. David Webster, introduce who you are, what you do, and what you hope to accomplish with this podcast.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, AK. Like you said, my name's David Webster, prior service military, legal immigrant to this country, and I just hope to create more of a conversation and a space for conservatives in the Midwest. I think that Minnesota, there's a lot of good things about this state. It's part of the heartland, and I think we have enough hunger in this state and enough change in the temperature and the culture here that we could easily flip this state red. And I want to be a part of making that happen. For me personally, it's been a goal of mine to get into podcasting probably for the last year, and I had opportunities in the past to kind of pursue this as an alternative career and source of income, and I didn't necessarily step on it at the time. And then obviously we all kind of had a big change happen to us in September with the loss of Charlie Kirk, and it just made me realize that we need more conservative voices now more than ever, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so I was able to get connected with AK, and then AK was kind enough to introduce me to Drew, and we've just been getting to know each other live on air in front of all of you, and just learning how to work together, and disagree with one another, talk about politics, talk about pop culture, talk about the news, and get to know local Minnesota politics and just things that are important to us here in the Midwest. And I'm excited to be a part of that and continue to grow this and get to know these guys better.
Dope. And kick it over to you, Drew. Introduce who you are, what you're about. And these are the first few episodes, right? Like, this is episode number 2. So I know we did it in episode 1, but not everyone's going to ever watch episode 1. So, yeah, tell us who you are and what you're about and what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah, what's going on? Drew Outstanding here, Army combat veteran, retired now as of 2021, after going through some horrible medical issues, paralyzed from the top of my head down to my toes, 6 months in the hospital, and coma for 10 days, whole run of stuff. I can go into it for about 4 hours, maybe even more. But yeah, up and kicking every day. I get a little bit more energy, mobility, and less fatigue, and just doing the passion things that I love doing. I love speaking. I love having discourse and understanding each other, critical thinking. So I've been doing speaking engagements for the last couple of years now, and then podcasts have just been where I've been able to kind of reach more people and just helping out veteran business owners, nonprofits, helping companies, Fortune 500 companies, connect with veterans and retain them, especially coming off the 20-year war on terror. And we're just going to have a flood of veterans out in the entertainment, politics, like we see here. and just doing amazing things. So combining that culture and politics all into one, we have some amazing skills to offer, and let's collaborate on that. And yeah, we got a couple good topics to here today. We're gonna give an update on the SNAP benefits. Dick Cheney passed away, and yeah, we have a few more. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty good show.
Yeah, and for those of you that are watching, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We're going to probably get to a point where we are streaming, multicasting across multiple platforms, but make sure that you also hit that like button, leave a comment. We're not at the point of super chats. One day we hope to be there. And honestly, share this link, share this video when it's live, share it after it's live if you're watching it after it's live, because that's the only way that we're ever going to grow this podcast and grow the show. Also, tell us what you like, what didn't you like. And so with that in mind, the formula, we're not trying to make a new, brand new way of doing a podcast here. We're going to talk kind of round robin about different issues that are culturally relevant. And sometimes that's going to involve politics. I'd say most of the time it's going to involve politics. We're always going to try and bring on guests as well. And our guests this week are Bell and Jacob. We kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier. David did. Charlie Kirk's assassination was kind of the motivator for us to finally just pull the trigger. All three of us actually had separate conversations about doing a podcast, and then we kind of brought it all together. But Bell and Jacob are kind of, again, they really are emblematical of Charlie Kirk's assassination, of what it's done to fire up people, because both of them are involved in Turning Point USA at the college chapter in Mankato. And so I want to bring on Bell and Jacob. I want you both just to introduce yourself and honestly just tell us anything that you think is important or relevant before we kind of get started in this conversation with our first story, which of course is going to be It's Election Day 2025. But Bell and Jacob, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I don't know if y'all can see us or not. We're trying to get that fixed, but I am Bell.
Fair enough.
My name
We
is
cannot
Bell.
see you.
I am the president of the TPUSA chapter on Minnesota State University. And Jacob?
Mankato, MSUM
Yep,
Mankato.
Yep.
Hi everyone, Jacob here. I'm the compliance officer in the Turning Point chapter in Mankato. I'm a master's student pursuing a degree in AI right now. Excited to be on the podcast. I'm not too sure why I can't turn on the camera.
No, that's all right. You know what? We're going to get started on this first topic. If you guys need to log out and go back to Bell's laptop, that's perfectly fine too. We'll get this all started. Listen, this is episode 2. So we're going to go through a little bit of growing pains. But like I said,
Yeah.
it's
I was just going to say, if they
day.
back out and they back in, we should be able to get them on. If they just have to hit
Yeah,
allow
yeah,
on their
yeah.
laptop. My bad, just doing some housekeeping.
And so, yeah, no, for sure. And so, again, today is Election Day 2025. At the time, right now, it's 6:09 Central Time. Polls in Minnesota are open until 8 p.m. So if you haven't voted, well, make sure whether or not you actually have an election. Where I live in Forest Lake in Minnesota, 0 elections going on. There's no municipal races. There's nothing going on. So there's nothing for me to vote on in my district. But if you want to make sure whether or not you have, an election going on where you live, you can always go to mngop.com and then click on election, and then it will bring you to the Secretary of State website. Or you can just Google, what's on my ballot or sample poll, and that's going to bring you basically your Secretary of State. Put in your address, and it's going to show you which elections are going on if you are eligible to actually vote, because there might not be anything going on in your state. Let me ask you, David.
Yeah, that's a good
did
point.
you
Like,
have any elections?
I looked it up today, AK. Like, and
Yeah.
I had the only things I could vote on were 2 school board or 2 moving money around, I guess, for the school district. And so
That's
I went and
important,
got that.
man. That's a levy,
It
dude.
is.
That's
Yeah.
going to increase your property taxes, bro.
Well, yeah,
But yeah, and David,
I don't
did
mind
you-
saying
did
I
you
voted
have
against
any? Okay, fair. I get it, man.
Yeah, down here was the same thing. It was school board things. I looked it up this morning right away, just to see.
Cool.
what,
And
what
see,
was
this is
available.
what's so important, right? So one of the things that people don't realize is that a lot of these municipal races, well, that's what we call it, municipal, because it's like county. If you're, running for a county commissioner, school board has a little bit different districts, and then your municipal, which is going to be, city council, mayor, things like that. Low turnout is why so many people win. And people are like, yeah, I didn't even know that was an election, or I really hate the way that my city government runs, or I really hate the school board. They're so far left, but I live in a more conservative area. How did they win? It's because people don't show up to vote. So again, polls are still open for another hour and 50 minutes. Make sure if you haven't checked that you check so you can go out there and vote. I'm not telling you, you should vote Republican, because a lot of these races aren't going to actually have a designation. A lot of these municipal races, the school board races, actually don't have endorsements. They're nonpartisan. Now, Republicans can recommend, or Democrats can recommend. So sometimes you need to do just a little bit of searching. Me personally, the best thing to do is you just search Minnesota Parents Alliance in Minnesota, and it's going to show you a voter guide. And Minnesota Parent Alliance is an amazing organization. They actually are looking for moms and dads that believe that education matters, but more importantly, we shouldn't be transiting our kids, right? They believe in actually empowering parents, making sure that the curriculum that is being taught in your schools is not this woke nonsense. So that's Minnesota Parents Alliance. They do a really good job at vetting who they are supporting, and it's actually not just like all Republicans. It's just people that agree to a set of principles that parents should be empowered. The idea that, teachers are their children, raising your children, is absurd. I think it's actually criminal. But that's enough for that on the soapbox. But today, across the entire nation, there are a bunch of elections happening that are going to be pretty significant in regards to momentum, because that's really what this comes down to. But before that, it looks like we do actually have our guests. They are back. It looks like their video's working. So Belle and Jacob, please introduce yourselves before we start going into kind of the national election day kind of news that's breaking as of right now. But Belle and Jacob, please introduce yourselves again.
Okay, so I'm Belle. I'm the chapter president of TPUSA on Minnesota State University. I am studying criminal justice and hopes to be a police officer once I'm done.
Oh, right on. That's sweet.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jacob here. So I'm the compliance officer of the Turning Point chapter here in Mankato. So Belle was the first one to inquire to Turning Point USA about starting this chapter. How long was this? This was last year?
This was the last semester towards the middle of spring.
It's been it was quite a long journey, and I joined Belt afterwards. So this really took off after Charlie Kirk's assassination. As you said, that's what motivated us to really double down, and we are so happy to see that the club, with your support and the Blue Earth County Republicans, it's been growing at an unprecedented phase, and we had a few pretty successful events. The last one with the community potluck. But yeah, so with your continued support, we just hope to grow that chapter. We need to make sure that we have a conservative voice on campus, especially at this time. But just a little background about myself. I'm actually a international student here. I'm pursuing my master's in artificial intelligence, and one day, perhaps I might consider getting into politics, but it will be my primary focus will be a career in data science and AI. I'm focusing on AI safety and so on.
Yeah. Very cool.
That's
I
awesome.
just want to kind of go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, just throw that out there. I'm a Minnesota State alum as well, so I graduated with a law enforcement degree from Minnesota State, and yeah, option 2. So I went federal side. Yeah,
Just gonna say, our law enforcement officers, they do deserve all the credit.
Yep. So that's awesome.
Yep.
Really cool to see what you guys. And I was at the Lakeville Vigil as well. So I was in the grass hanging out. But you guys all did an amazing job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so kind of not to put you both on the spot, obviously, Jacob, hopefully you answer no. But did you guys vote today?
No.
Fair. So let me ask you, Belle. Did you guys just not have any elections? Any elections up in Mankato?
I don't think we actually did. I didn't even know
Sure.
if there were any. I didn't look if we had any, and
Oh,
I'm
sure.
pretty sure if we had any, my parents would have told me.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, and hey, listen, I get that, especially in college. You're like, yo, this is my parents will just hit me up and say, hey, make sure you vote today. And
Yeah.
then hopefully you did not vote, Jacob. Just kidding, man.
Yes, sir. I
But yeah,
did.
I
I
mean, what
confirmed that I did not vote as a legal immigrant here. The privilege of voting should be reserved for citizens of the United States of America.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of voting and speaking of systems that are completely jacked up, New York has an election. New York City mayor. They have obviously their giant municipal race. The state of Virginia has an election. Basically, it's all of their constitutional officers. So, governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, probably their state auditor, all of their constitutional officers, and then also offices, I should say, and also New Jersey also has their gubernatorial along with their constitutional. So, just a little bit of nerdy knowledge. The reason why these elections can seem so weird is like certain states have odd year elections. Like Kentucky is also an odd year election. And, really, when you kind of think about it, we do have 50 different states that can have their own different rules. It's, again, New York City, it's their municipal race for the city of New York, but New York State, they are not having an election today. Their election is going to be in 2026. So it's a little bit confusing. But right now, New York City, uh, the money's saying it's Mom Donnie. Whether you're looking at Kalshi or you're looking at Poly Markets, it looks like right now, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is poised to lose, and socialists, aka communists, aka what I think is a terrible, awful American, which I would love to see him potentially denaturalized, looks like he is poised to win. So here's what I want to do is just kind of get your guys' perspective. Feel free to chime in. It doesn't have to go in any specific order. But yeah, what are your initial thoughts on New York City's mayoral race? Who do you think is going to win? What do you think New York City goes like complete communist?
Yeah, it's wild. This is a new thing as far as the poly market, the betting goes. Like you used to rely on polls, on the interest and everything like that. But now people outside of New York City are voting or betting, I guess. And so that's going to be a new driver. So along with AI, in these different kind of things, it's now we have like legal betting, like and gambling on different things when it comes up to these different politicians and what they're voting on, and it's wild. So that part of it is really uh, just a new and wild thing to kind of go about, and so that's going to judge a lot when it comes to this, and it's going to drive decisions. But as far as the Cuomo, well, yeah, let me touch on Cuomo for a little bit too, because I did not like anything that guy did throughout COVID. So a lot of it, was related to kind of what went on with me during COVID. But having him ship people that were had COVID back to nursing homes, and then that just destroyed, killed many elderly people, and then spread it. And when there were other options kind of going on at the time, that was a complete mess. And then he ended up getting removed from office due to like sexual harassment or something like that, and not all the COVID related, in my opinion, crimes against humanity in all those kind of things. So I am not a fan of Andrew Cuomo, Chris Cuomo as well for his take. And they combined it, like he was on CNN and they were like going back and forth and having this big Q-tip and these different things. And no, so yeah, just those guys, I don't even want to touch on them. But yeah, and then yeah, I'll let you touch on the the other guy, the communist.
Mom Donnie. So
Yeah.
here's what I'm
I was
curious.
gonna say,
Both I was gonna say Bell and Jacob, just quick. I'm just super. I just want quick temperature. Does this matter to you at all? What happens in New York City? Like from your perspective, like do you even care?
Yeah, I absolutely do care because it may just be like, the state of New York, but it's not the fact that they're going to vote him in is not going to only affect New York, it's going to affect everything else. I just feel like it's going to
Gotcha.
affect because there was something that Charlie Kirk once said was that when you start mixing Marxism and communism together, that's when you know that there's a war. That's going to cause a war with all of us.
Yeah, and I've been
Yeah.
looking at the employee market predictions, and it looks like Zohan has a 95%, is sitting at 95% right now in the employee market. And for me, that is really concerning. I've grown up in Singapore, and all of my life I've seen how capitalism, when you embrace free market, it leads to prosperity. And when you have the reverse of capitalism, the socialism, then you and when you enforce redistribution of wealth, then you are going to lead to a whole slew of problems. And New York is one of the biggest cities. It's the biggest city in the U.S. And innovation is what drove you New York. It is what made it great. And it's something where you can't have the same level of innovation and competitiveness once you have a socialist kind of system. So for me, that is really worrying, because I don't think in American society where any socialist policies would work. So yeah, it's definitely a setback, I think, in terms of for the future of America. That's my honest take on it.
Especially like Minnesota, a lot of the outside areas are red, and then when it
Yeah.
comes to like the small city, or not small, but the cities, it's small on the map, but density of people wise, they'll get a lot of people to vote Democrat. So you see that in California, and Minnesota, and in New York, and it's just wild when you look at the map, especially like who voted for Trump as far as districts go, and this whole thing is like, okay, New York is going to, the whole state of New York is going to be funding these horrible policies, from upstate into the city, and it's not a good idea, not a good plan, as Tony Stark would say.
Totally agrees.
I was gonna say I actually grew up in New York, and I'm very unhappy with what's happening as far as this outcome goes. My family and we actually moved out of New York right before 9/11 happened, and I just think that to go from not even 2 decades ago that happening to now we're going to elect someone that openly hates this country and what we stand for. I didn't think I'd see it in my lifetime. It's just crazy how short of a memory people have. And you were talking before about Cuomo, and it's sad to think that of the two of them, he would be the better outcome. It's like being stuck between two horrible decisions. I didn't like his COVID policies either. I actually had a grandfather pass away in a care facility from some routine heart work because they kept changing the COVID policies to where eventually we couldn't come visit him anymore. And even with my own recent, we had a family medical thing recently, where I just think the ability to visit your family especially when they're older and they're recovering from something, that plays a huge role in their recovery and in their mental state and their spirits while they're going through difficult things like that. And I think that how he handled the things with COVID and what it ultimately did to my grandfather and him passing away is it's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
think,
hear you,
listen,
David. The same thing happened to me in Minnesota. My aunt was in hospice and passing away. We didn't know when, but it happened very quickly, and I was able to go visit. And they didn't want us to come in there. They're like, "Oh, we have this rule for this time and later in windows." And I'm like, "Nope, I'm just gonna walk straight through." And I did, and was able to talk to her for a little bit, and before and then she passed a couple days after that. And I can't imagine how many people in New York and had similar things to that, and probably more enforcement of not letting people in. Go ahead, AK.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, so my couple of things. I think that New York putting themselves in the situation that they did is really, really bad, because it just shows that at the end of the day, having terrible candidates like Mamdani is such a terrible candidate because he believes in communism, and it is antithetical to I would say the United States, like quite literally. And real quick, Bell and Jacob, can you guys mute your microphone just real quick? Or David, you could also mute for them. Thank you. And so, again, we are working out the kinks. Thank you, everyone that's tuned in. Make sure you guys drop your comments. But the thing is that as bad as communism is, right? Andrew Cuomo, it's like he is just as awful. To your point, Drew, when people like take a step back and they realize that there were, I believe, 11 governors, and they were all Democrats, that made the conscious choice to discharge COVID positive patients into long-term care facilities, which we call nursing homes. And the majority of the people in nursing homes are older. They have already a lot of ailments. Most of them have some type of compromised immune system in some way, shape, or form. And so when you saw that there was 80, 90% mortality rates occurring in these community settings, in these long-term care facilities, and then you would go and look across the rest of the community and you would have far, far, far lower mortality rates, it meant that people like Governor Cuomo made a choice that led directly to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, like 100%, like there's just no way about it. And he could have made a different choice, but he didn't. President Trump sent the Mercy ship to New York City, and they could have used it, and it went empty because Cuomo, it was so arrogant. And so, like, when you really kind of look at that, I kind of joke about it because it's like sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying. But people like Governor Cuomo and our governor in Minnesota, Tim Walz, he made the same choice. And so when you saw people dying in nursing homes at these large, alarming rates, that's because they made a conscientious choice, and none of them have been held accountable for it. So to award Cuomo with the mayoralship of New York City is kind of crazy. But then it's like, but what would you rather have? A deranged, basically like serial killer of old people, or a communist that's going to destroy basically one of the United States' top 1 or 3 economic centers? Some people argue that maybe it's Los Angeles. Some people are saying, well, Florida has done so well economically, but no one can deny that New York City is one of our largest economic centers. Do you let that fall to communism, or do you elect a serial killer of old people? And that's the hard part, right? Is that, like, when you have to make that decision, it's just, what do you do? I personally, if I was in New York City, I would just move. I'd be like, I don't want either of these people. They both suck. David, you had your hand raised, so go ahead, brother, jump in.
Muted.
I just realized I was muted. I was
you're
just going to
muted,
throw in real quick that we got our first chat for this show. It looks like Operation Outstanding Infield just wrote to us, have an outstanding show. Just wanted to give them a shout out. Thank you for that comment.
That may or may not be
Shout out.
my secret identity.
Why you got to out yourself like that?
We gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, man. So one last thing too. My mother, she passed away 2.5 years ago. Dang, almost 3 years ago in January. She had a sudden cardiac arrest. My mother was in a nursing home for the last 10 years of her life. So if you do the math on that, she was in a nursing home during COVID. And so much like you, Drew, like I remember going, and this is my mother, right? Like this isn't my grandma, and it's different. And I know it's weird to say that, but like this is my mom, and going to the nursing home in Minnesota and those COVID policies, I didn't know if she'd be able to make it. She already has a compromised immune system. She had diabetes. She had multiple amputations. She had vascular dementia, so her brain wasn't all there. Like she had amazing conversations with us. But I remember going to the nursing home and having to stand outside of her window, literally on the phone. They wouldn't even let her open up the window. And that went on 4 months. And I'll be honest, it's part of the reason why I actually got the jab. Not all. It was still my choice. I didn't feel necessarily pressured into it. So it is a different scenario for me versus a lot of people, even like yourself, Drew. I didn't have to get it. I would have still been able to go and see her, just not physically. And by the time it got around to that point, like a lot of stuff had changed. But point is that like it was part of my calculation. And so, yeah, I mean, I got the mRNA vaccine. I did a bunch of research on it. Would I take it back? Probably, just based off of a handful of factors. But yeah, that's all that tirade to say, like, oh my gosh, man, if you're in New York City, talk about, it's not even like the devil you know versus the devil you don't. It's just like there's two devils that you have to choose between, man. And to me, it's that crazy. But President Trump endorsed Cuomo, man. So I guess
I don't think he
go
technically
with
endorsed him. I think he just said
Yeah.
to vote for him.
Yeah, I
but
know.
or I don't know the
He's-
the definitions.
He kind
but
of said it's the best of the worst options. Is kind of
yeah,
Yeah, I
but
know.
roughly
that's
how he
It-
put it.
I don't know.
It is
about all
bad.
that.
Now, I do want to move on to another race real quick. So in New Jersey, that race is a lot closer. It's between Jack Ciattarelli and I believe her name is Michaela. I wish I would have. Let me look at this actually. But yeah, Jack Ciattarelli is a Republican, and based off of the most Sherrills, there we go, Mickey Sherrills. They were basically neck and neck. Like it was a toss up. Cheryl had a little bit of an advantage, but Ciattarelli was kind of surging last minute, and I think that's pretty interesting. I'm going to pull up actually real quick here some exit polling. Now, exit polls, they're a thing in and of themselves where it's like, can they be reliable? They used to kind of push people into a certain direction, but I think this is interesting. So New Jersey voters basically showed that, 34% of them thought that the economy was the most important thing. 36% said taxes, healthcare at 16%. So if you were to just kind of blindly guess, right, between a Republican and a Democrat, if the top issues are the economy and taxes, would they be voting for a Democrat who is likely talking about raising the taxes and the economy? So maybe that's a good sign for Ciattarelli. I'm just kind of curious from your guys' perspective. Have you heard a whole lot about that race in New Jersey? I personally think that it could give us kind of a one of the wins of the night, because I think New York City is done so either way. But I'm just curious on your guys' perspective.
Yeah, I think there is a change kind of happening, but yeah, the people making the money, it sucks because like the however you put it, wealthy, rich, whatever, the people that have more, I guess, mobility, and we can fly, we can travel quickly nowadays more so than the past. We saw during COVID, the people in New York that were able to, they went down to Florida, and the way that goes is like they probably claim New York residency 6 months in a day, but they probably spent all their time in Florida, California, different places during that time. So I could see that happening again, where it's like, okay, or it could go either way. They could stay New York residents, but then they're traveling all around and doing different things and don't have to deal with the crime, the policies, all the stuff that, us peasants have to deal with. Or it could go the other way where they're like, okay, I'm just going to go claim Florida residency for 6 months and a day, but I'm going to be doing my business in New York. But eventually it's getting to the point where it's just unaffordable for business. Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, when a couple of months ago, or maybe it was about a year ago, when Trump was under indictment in New York, and they just took over his businesses and property and things like that. Mr. Wonderful came over and said, he's like, no, this is not American. This is not an okay thing to do, is just steal somebody's building or business or whatever, and then figure it out later in the courts. Obviously, a lot of those got taken away. I can't remember, was it Letitia James? Different people that now they're under indictment. If I said the wrong name, I apologize. But yeah, now it's just it's a lot of this just like political theater back and forth, but it has to do with people's businesses, which employs people. And it has a huge, huge difference. And we got to start paying attention to this. And the earlier on, the better. Yeah, Bell and Jacob, just like, yeah, the more you can get in tune with the stuff yourself and then be able to convey that to your, fellow students, going to be the better, because Minnesota tends to follow suit after New York and California, sadly to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that we're trying. And as part of Turning Point, and Charlie Kirk himself is a big proponent of, starting your own business, entrepreneurship, really capitalistic ideas. So we do have various signs. For instance, socialism sucks and big government sucks. So we'll definitely try to get those signs more. In fact, our tabling, we have a tabling event on Wednesday, and we'll try to get those, put out some merch about why socialism sucks.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, from both of your perspective, how do you feel about, like, I guess, the current state of politics in Minnesota? Obviously, you know, we still got a year until the next election, but a year goes a lot faster than you think. From like just your gut check right now, how optimistic are you feeling in 2026 that we will see a change in, Governor Walz losing, or Republicans kind of taking control, or at least, having some semblance of pushing back against all this fraud? I'm just curious from your guys' perspective, as college students. Does it matter? Do you feel energized? Do you feel like you need to see something more from Republicans?
I think one thing that I think I'm pretty optimistic, but like, I'm an
Okay.
optimistic person, so I try to look at the positives. But I think that we actually are, I think we're going to make a change, honestly. I'm not going to lie. I know that Charlie Kirk has said, watch out for Minnesota because we are changing. And it's a different time now, and especially with his death, we are going to be seeing a lot of things shifting around, in my opinion. But one thing I do want to see from our governors or people who are running, I want to see them push harder for like. I also want to see them, um, what's the word? Fight for what they believe in, and I don't want to see them back down. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
personally,
and
go ahead. You first.
no, you go for it, brother. No,
Okay.
you go.
Yeah. So, for me, what makes me worried is that, for instance, I was looking at Omar's campaign and on his website, where he mentions why is he running for mayor. The top reason is basically to block out the quote unquote hostile federal government. So it's sad to see that a lot of the policies are basically just we don't want Trump in Minnesota. We want to get him out of here. For instance, on the issue of ICE and federal law enforcement, um, and it is worrying because if you determine your policies from uh, the standpoint that I don't want the federal government to come in, then that's where you're not going to get things done. In addition, for instance, there are various policies on raising taxes to support socialist programs like programs similar to universal basic income. That is, Minneapolis is already in a state of is not in a very good financial state, and the people are struggling. We college students are struggling. We, for instance, rent even in Mankato has increased drastically over the past few years, and that's not what we want to see. We don't want to see prices keep going up. We don't want to see our taxes going up. So it is for me. I'm really really concerned. On chances, I think this cycle, we definitely have a much higher chance than the previous election cycle. Just that people see how Minneapolis has become. I was in Minneapolis just a couple of days ago, actually during Halloween. We were planning to go to me and my girlfriend we were planning to go to the bar, and we decided not to, and that was a good call because we could have been right next to Dinkytown, and on Saturday there was a shooting in Dinkytown. So it just shows you that what Minneapolis has become, and um, definitely that gave me more hope that people are waking up. They are seeing with their own eyes. They're waking up, and hopefully things will change. Yeah, that's my honest take on this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, I think just kind of wrap up this topic, and we're going to move on to something that I think you're going to have a lot of fun with, Jacob, because it's kind of in your wheelhouse. Just to wrap up, I think that what is happening in this current electoral cycle, everyone's trying to kind of get their best hand or idea wrapped around what is going to occur. I don't know. Anyone that tries to be an election soothsayer is mostly just pulling at straws. Obviously, from a polling perspective, it looks like Democrats are going to clean up, whether or not Proposition 50 passes in California, and they kind of initiate this redistricting battle that's going to go between the states. We'll see what happens. But I think the bright spot is potentially New Jersey with Chitterelli being able to pull it off. But again, I kind of want to just it's going to be a hard pause, hard turn into another topic that I find fascinating. That's right in your wheelhouse, Jacob. So there was a book that came out, and I actually just learned about this today, and I've been super enthralled with it. That's called "If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies: Why Superhuman AI Could Kill Us All." And so, reason why this was fascinating to me is I'm a big fan of Tim Pool, and he talked about it on his daily show today, kind of breaking down a viral video that was made just a couple of days ago that has like 1.5 million views of a guy kind of like very super condensed version of one of the scenarios of AI taking over. But basically just kind of reading a new book by 2 artificial intelligence researchers claims that the race to build super intelligent AI could spell doom for humanity. If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies: Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All, authors Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Soares claim that AI development is moving too fast and without proper safety measures. Now, just kind of real quick, have either you, David, or Drew, seen any stories or articles about this specific book?
I have not. But
No, that's fair. I know.
Yeah,
I
I would
didn't.
agree.
I didn't share this a whole lot ahead of time before we jumped on, and this is kind of like one of my wheelhouses.
Yeah.
And I'll get your thoughts on it in just a second, but kind of the general overview is that this book details, hey, this is a very real scenario, but there is a silver bright light at the end, which is like saying, here's some solutions. And TLDR, basically having intergovernmental pacts agreeing that there should not be rogue data centers that are set up. And if they do get set up, basically should be able to use like all measures of deterrence, whether it's blowing it up from the sky or, sicking a bunch of hackers on it to take down the data center. But that basically all these nations should agree that everyone should be AI testing it, that we should not allow just anyone to kind of do what they want. I don't have a whole lot more than that. But Jacob, what are your thoughts, man? I mean, do you share this sentiment? I mean, that's your wheelhouse. You said you're getting your master's in some type of, I don't know if it's an LLM or some type of AI. But yeah, give us your thoughts, man, on if you buy the doom scenario of whether it's artificial general intelligence wiping out humanity or artificial superintelligence. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a really interesting topic, and I spent quite a lot of time thinking about it. And first, let me just explain why, researchers are afraid of such a scenario, and really what AI is, or LLM, for instance, when you are typing something in ChatGPT, is that you can think of ChatGPT as kind of like this token machine that spits out token, and it's spitting out token that are statistic that has a very high probability of being the correct answer. And this whole thing is, there's no one that explicitly programs it. It's all emergent of training. So for instance, with the latest ChatGPT, OpenAI spent over $200 to $500 million just in the training process alone. So that is trillions and trillions of internet documents. And we can see that AI, it starts to, it has emergent behaviors like self-preservation, or we see in cases where, OpenAI, they have conducted experiments where they try to lock an AI system down, and they leak it emails of, hey, we might plan to shut you down. And, the AI on its own decide to somehow threaten the fake employee, to not shut itself down. So it is just a really advanced token generator, powered by mathematics. We don't know exactly where intelligence come from. How is it able to solve equations? How is it able to form a chat? So it's whenever in life, when you have something that is really, you see the power of it, but you don't know how the power manifests. It it is a really scary thing to have, especially this power is something that can be potentially smarter than any one human being on earth. So it's an element of not knowing what the AI is thinking, and that it has the potential of being super intelligent than any one person. It probably might not be intelligent than the entire human race combined, but it certainly is more intelligent than the average human, let's say, for now. And perhaps in the distant 10, 20 years, it could be more intelligent than the entire human race combined. So, not knowing how it, get its thoughts, that is a concern. The other issue is that, in fact, the AI industry is really, really centralized. You have a few big companies dominating the industry. So, for instance, NVIDIA essentially controls the global supply of inference chips. Those are chips that OpenAI uses whenever type of command. It goes into OpenAI. It's processed on a NVIDIA chip. NVIDIA gets TSMC in Taiwan manufactures the chip, and there's only one company that provides the machine to TSMC that manufactures the chip, and that is ASML. So you have the three giants controlling the world's supply of chips, essentially. And this is why AI would also become a massive geopolitical challenge. So I don't know what the future holds for AI, but there is definitely, in my opinion, a non-zero chance that this scenario that you just mentioned might happen. The good thing is
What a scientific answer. A non-zero. I love
a
it.
non-zero chance. We don't, yeah, yeah.
David, what do you think, man? Let me ask you this real quick, Jacob. Just quick twitch. Are you afraid that AI is going to destroy all humans if it achieves either AGI or ASI?
There is a non-zero chance that that might happen.
Fair. David, what are your thoughts on AI, man?
Oh man, maybe it's because I'm a kid of the '90s, and I found this interesting way with my strong Lutheran upbringing to combine spiritual truth with the arts, and I think that some art can be divinely inspired, right? Like when you see religious iconography in your superhero comic books and things like that. And I just think about my childhood of the '90s. We had all these different artists coming up with the same story, right? You had Terminator, you had Battlestar Galactica, you had The Matrix, and they were all warning the same thing, which is AI is gonna, eventually decide that human beings are the threat. What was that? We had a Will Smith movie in there somewhere where he fought some robots that were trying to kill
iRobot,
everybody.
man. Come on.
iRobot,
Iconic,
exactly.
bro. Yeah, man. The three
Um,
laws, bro.
yeah, yep, the three laws, and I just like I've used AI a couple of times. I'll use ChatGPT sometimes, but I do think that there's kind of an over reliance on it that's been happening, and I think if it's one thing if we're using it to for like data, it's another thing if we're using it to make major life decisions. Where you'll have people making, using it for business analysis or for, it could even be little things like, should I buy this car or this car? Or, where should we go to dinner? Like, I just, the people I've talked to that use like ChatGPT and some of the other ones, like what they use it for, it's, it's so not like you're making your company more productive. It's you're using it to make life decisions, and those should have a human component, not a data-based component to them.
That's interesting. What do you think, Drew, man? I mean, there's these AI applications that, especially for someone who has, again, you have Guillain-Barré syndrome, and it's, something that with medical advancements, if artificial general intelligence is able to do things that our human current understanding of science can't fix. I'm just curious from like your perspective, like, are you rooting for it? Are you like, nah? I'm just genuinely curious.
Yeah,
from, like,
it's
a
it's
medical
wild.
application.
Yeah, I mean the different specialties, the GBS, the Guillain-Barré syndrome that I have, it's extremely rare, And so I always ask, I try to get answers, and the doctors, the specialists don't have any. They're like, well, we don't have enough data. It's not like your breast cancer or MS or something like that, where there's just so many. So they're just playing medical practice. But I've heard that now AI can go through an MRI or something like that and see things that doctors are maybe missing, or you or you gotta they'll charge tens of hundreds of thousands, all this money to like spend the time to analyze that stuff, along with my whole host of other things I have going on, where an AI can look at more of it. It is pretty scary. But then at the same time, yeah, I've even been approached, and this is more well known, and these spinal cord stimulators. It's basically a surgery. They put a little wire on your spinal cord in order to give. The idea is it's supposed to give, if it works, it gives X amount of mobility to get more quality of life. But there's no probability that it can work. And then it's a surgery, so now you're getting infection and all these other things. And then it's batteries, so it's got to be another surgery later on And so I try to stay away from that. I'm like, no, let's wait a little bit longer. Let me try some natural stuff. But it's wild. Yeah, more machines are being placed inside people, and then yeah, it's getting a little scary, but at the same time, it's going that way anyway. Just like with the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, and then they mentioned the automobile and interchangeable parts. Like I said, with the everything else is going on, it's going to go pretty fast. My hesitation is that it's going faster than our emotions can understand, and how we can relate to people and get that. And then we got the next generation, Bell and Jacob, and then our kids, the people out there that have young kids like I do. It's like they're only going to know a world of AIs being used on a daily basis. So it's going to get pretty interesting.
Yeah, go ahead, Belle. I know that you kind of want to throw your thoughts out there.
Yeah, so one thing that really does scare me for the future is how advanced AI is getting. I did hear about that experiment that they did do, and how it decided to blackmail them instead of trying to get them to, instead of letting it be shut down, which is what it was meant to do, and which was what it was programmed to, let it do, and it would not let it, shut down. But that really scares me, and it's also what you said, Drew. How like the kids are not going to know a world without AI. That's heartbreaking to hear, especially because we grew up without AI, and we grew up with I honestly think I had a great childhood because we didn't have to rely on something else to get our answers for us. And another thing that really does worry me is that a lot of the college students nowadays do rely on AI too, like heavily for like their homework assignments, their answers, or their essays, and they rely on it too much. And I feel like it's gonna make our generations dumber. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I believe.
It's a different kind of understanding. You're going to have more information ready to go and be able to tap into that, but it's going to hinder kind of creative thought and be like, okay, how did you come up with that? And let's kind of discuss it back and forth. Instead, it's just a regurgitated, answer. And you're kind of filling in the gaps. Think of it like a multiple choice test rather than an essay where you can fully flesh out your idea on a given topic. It's just going to be a different way of thinking. Compared to audiobooks, like people my age now, they're like, oh yeah, I read a book the other day. And I'm like, what do you mean by read? They're like, oh, I listened to the audiobook. I'm like, okay, that's not reading. You're
That's
not taking
me,
it
bro.
in.
I do it.
Yeah,
Nope,
I
doesn't
have read
count.
so many books.
I'm
because
with
of
Drew on this.
audiobooks.
That does not count.
It's something, but it's not the same where your mind is kind of creating a picture, creating like a movie based on the words that are written. It's only coming in audio. So yeah, it's a shorter cut. You're getting to the end destination, but you're missing a few of the good sights along the way.
It's
ahead,
that
Jacob.
age-old conversation about knowledge versus wisdom, right? So when you have something like AI or Chat GPT and you're using it to make all those decisions, you've got all the knowledge, but you don't have any of the wisdom. And we've seen time and time again throughout human history, and even like in this modern age where everybody, the last generation, they all grew up with smartphones, right? Like I know me, Drew, and AK, we remember a time when the flip phone was revolutionary technology, and you didn't have everything, and it took 20 minutes to send a text message, and you got carpal tunnel because you were pressing the same button 20 times. The generation coming on behind us, they've all known tablets and iPhones, and then the next generation coming after them is going to know a life with AI. And you can see it in some of the decisions that people make, even like within politics or within like pop culture, what's become popular, that there's that difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, Jacob, I think you wanted to add in something too.
Yeah, I just want to add in, since we are talking politics, and it deeply concerns me that students are relying so much on AI on a lot of their thinking. So recently, I've saw this study where they benchmark different AIs and how much does each AI system value different races. You know, we as conservatives, we believe that no matter what is your race or background or religion, you deserve equal respect. You are treated as equal. But in the research, we see that somehow Nigerians are worth way more than people from the United States or the United Kingdom, or that Pakistani, India, Brazil, Chinese are worth more than people in a Western country. Or we in the research, it also says that how the AI is vastly biased towards President Donald Trump, or Elon Musk. So it looks like the quote unquote wokeness has gotten seeped so far into AI, that it makes me really worried, because if students who, or even high school kids who are highly impersonable, if they rely off their thinking using AI systems, and AI system are woke itself, then that is a huge issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to kind of close up this topic and just kind of give my final thoughts. So I have I guess, unpopular take when it comes to AI. I, as a Christian, as a person of faith, I tend to kind of view the world through this lens, like when it's doomsday scenario, like, oh, AI is going to kill all humans. I'm like, I mean, I guess if that's the way that God wants to roll it, then that's the way that he wants to roll it. So I just kind of worry about, again, doing as we're called to by Christ, is to go out there and make disciples. And so cool, I guess, focus more on that if that's what it is. But here's my unpopular opinion and take on AI. If it does achieve artificial superintelligence, which is, again, beyond the summation of all possible human knowledge. Artificial general intelligence is basically the summation of all human knowledge. That's like having like the world's smartest person or whatever, right? But all of human knowledge, artificial super is a step above that. My feeling is, just like if it's modeled after all the human data input that's put into it, as we have, I guess you could say, become more enlightened, we have actually became more benevolent. Now, I know that we still have a sinful nature to us, but I actually think that if we achieve artificial superintelligence, it's not going to really, it's going to look at us as lesser beings, and it's going to move on. It might use us to their means or to their ends, but I actually don't think that they're going to wipe out all humans. But again, even if that's not the case, then I guess we're going to go to our maker. So we should try and make more disciples on our way out the door. This is going to be kind of another hard turn. But when we talk about things that affect us in everyday life, obviously you can't turn on a TV or go on X without hearing about Snappocalypse. And that is this idea, right? That with having SNAP benefits cut off, that the United States is over, people are going to start mass looting. That hasn't happened. We are today, the 4th of November. SNAP benefits and EBT benefits were cut off on the 1st. Today, President Trump, the White House came out and said that they are going to follow the court order after they got some direction, saying that there are these emergency funds that will partially fund the SNAP program. At first, when that order came down by the judge, President Trump said, cool, but what's the formula? How do we don't have full funding? And because Democrats have now voted today 14 times to not fund the government and to not fund programs like SNAP, President Trump today was saying, hey, you know what? Unless they vote to approve this continuing resolution, I'm not going to release the funds. White House came back and said, okay, we are going to do the partial funds of what's in the emergency fund, but it doesn't completely fund everything. So I kind of want to start there. That's what today's current status is. The White House is going to be releasing these partial payments. I don't know what the exact formula is going to be, but I'm curious. Like, we haven't seen the Snapocalypse. People aren't looting Walmarts and HEBs and Hy-Vees and grocery stores all across America. I'm just genuinely curious. Do you guys think it's coming? Do you think that this is going to stave off some people? And lastly, what's up with the Democrats just lying to our face saying that it's Republicans' fault that SNAP benefits got cut off when they, again, today took a 14th vote saying, no, they're not going to fund the government? Feel free, whoever wants to jump in first.
All right. Well, I
Go
had
ahead,
a different
Drew.
article pulled up. Yeah, I had a different article pulled up, but
Oh, okay, my bad.
you kind of set it up. So yeah, we can read a little bit right here. White House insists on the following court order that will partially fund the SNAP payments. So the way it kind of went down is I talked about this last week, saying that it'll run out on the first on Saturday, and it did, and not much kind of changed. And then now we're coming up on a couple days. I think they were hoping the government shutdown would end the Schumer shutdown and all this stuff, like you said.
You know what,
AK?
Dog? I got you. I found this one.
Okay. Yep. There we go. Trump administration tells judge it will partially fund. And from what I heard, this came from actually tariffs. So tariffs that we were able to make as America over the last however many months and everything, changing up. Now we have extra money to do this kind of thing. It's obviously not that's the way it's supposed to go, but if it's able to fund half of the benefits, that's a thing that can do. It shouldn't have to happen this way, obviously, but look at that, 4.65 billion in contingency funds, which will cover about half of eligible households for this month. So we're talking about just November. And from what I'm hearing, the government shutdown could go into November, December time as well. So I think on Wednesday, on tomorrow, it's going to be the longest running government shutdown. And it's wild. I was looking at a different article where, going back to AI a little bit, there were some AI videos of people complaining that they're losing their SNAP benefits and things like that. And I guess those are fake. But it's like, okay, but that could cause a riot, a run on these stores. But at the same time, it's a contained store. It's a bottleneck. Us military people can understand that, going in one way and out the other. And they're not going to go through the back of the warehouse. I like the idea. I'm really torn. For one, the people that this program was made for, it should be supported. And I said it last week, but it should also be supported at the lowest common level. The lowest meaning household families. So extended families help take care of your family members. Obviously, that's not always going to be enough. Then it goes to the city, or I would even say an organization like the church could be the next in line to help that out. And just start at the lowest common denominator, then go to the city, county, state. And if you want to have Minnesota, New York, all these that have more socially programs, then you can have that. And then people will move to Minnesota, to New York, and for that kind of stuff. Or if your taxes are just going to be outrageous and 50% go into these kind of programs, then you might want to look at Florida, Texas, other places. But this whole thing that the federal government, which is really just supposed to defense in borders and a few other things, as started when the country was formed, it never meant to be this providing. And it's not even just healthy food. It's this, stuff that's made with chemicals, pop, sugar, all these kind of things. And it just has an impact on, I could go on forever, on farming as well.
Oh, dude, you're
on
speaking my
subsidies.
language.
Yeah, I know. I'm big into numbers.
We're just poisoning the poor people with the stuff we're giving them too. It's
exactly. And so I'm kind of on the idea of just expose all this. If the wrong people are on it, get them off it in a healthy manner. But I like that we're having this conversation. It was like, okay, should we really be funding subsidies, all this kind of horrible food, and then people that are taking advantage of it when they could be, there could be a, I've heard requirements for, okay, get a job, community service, some kind of thing to provide a transactional thing back and forth. But something new has to come from this program.
Well, and even in Minnesota here, there's so many organizations that have, like, so many churches you see with food shelves. I remember when I lived in Minneapolis for a little while, I had a neighbor who was an older gentleman, and I would drive him to this Baptist church that was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was handing out, like, it would give, like, fill this cardboard box just full of, like, farm fresh vegetables or stuff from the grocery store. And because of his retirement situation, whatever his income level was, he relied on that. And so you see, like, constantly, even a state as overtaxed and as Democrat run as we are, that the church and the local community does a better job of taking care of these people than the federal government does. On an aside,
And they could do even better too, because what I hear
yep.
is people don't always like to donate to the church, to organizations that provide food, because they're like, oh, the federal government does it. And that's not the way it should go. We shouldn't be having our taxes, our labor pulled from us, and we don't know where it's going to go. And then maybe eventually gets to some people, and hopefully the right people. But instead, be intentional about it. So yeah, that's my thing. I'm
Yeah,
a
no,
fiscal
absolutely.
guy.
And what's crazy is the government, if they do it, they take your cut. Whereas if the
Yes.
church does it, everybody's volunteering to help those people out. The only other aside I was going to throw out real quick is I love the fact that Donald Trump keeps finding all these solutions around all of these, like using the tariff money, or even last week we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but like Timothy Mellon, that reclusive billionaire, deciding to find a way to donate money to pay all the troops. Like every time the
Yes.
Democrats try to do something to limit the government's capability of doing what it's actually supposed to do, Donald Trump just finds this genius way of working around it, and I love that. But Belle, you had something you wanted to share.
One thing that I really find kind of dumb about this entire thing is the fact that Democrats think that they're actually doing something by shutting down the government. It's kind of funny, honestly. We're watching them melt down, and we're also watching them feel the consequences of their actions. And I just find that kind of funny. And
Yeah, and
Well, you get it though, and a lot of us do. But I think the average person is being like, "Oh, Trump administration, government
Yep.
shutdown, his thing," and I don't know how many people out there are not understanding that, the way that we are, and how really politics works. And I was a little bit older than you guys when I really started to understand how policy and politics has an impact on specifically our daily lives and our money.
Yeah, and I just want to, reiterate on the point of, federal support. Instead of having federal support, local churches could do a much better job. And that's something that Charlie Kirk pushed a lot during his lifetime, is that our churches, when we should provide funding to the churches to support the community, because local churches know how to best support their communities. I myself, I go to college, and most of my money spent towards tuition, and I actually take advantage of a couple churches on campus. So, every week I can get fresh groceries, eggs, potatoes, milk, everything. And I just think that would be a much better program. And just looking at the massive fraud and abuse that Doge has identified in the past year in SNAP alone, it's according to Doge, is about $1 billion per month in wasteful or ineligible payments towards SNAP. So that is a significant waste of taxpayer dollars that, for instance, could be funneled to the churches, who could better help the local communities. Yeah, it's pretty much that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
the
here's
other
the
side
thing.
of it is this creates a generational way of life. So if one person does it, it's like, okay, they needed it, but then it continues on. It never goes away for that. Call it that parent, that two parent, or maybe even a single parent household. And then their kids are raised on that. It's like, yep, we're going to get our $400 and go spend it on pretty much everything, even at gas stations too. You see the signs, we accept EBT, and all these different things. And then those kids grow up saying, yep, we're just waiting on our whatever, first and the 15th or whenever it tends to roll in. And then they just know that we're going to get free money and it's always just going to be there. And that's a horrible way to kind of teach it.
It was meant to
and
be a
kind of-
safety net, not a lifestyle, not a source of income. It's not a career.
So I love to talk about EBT, SNAP benefits, any government assistance. A lot of people, it's academic, right? For me, it's actually literally how I grew up. My family was on every government program that you could be on. When my mom passed away, she was actually on Medicaid. My mom had not worked from like just after I was born until she died. She had like maybe a span of time of like 3 years maybe. And so I'm 41. So she basically, I would say 34 years of her adult life, she didn't have like a full-time job. And so when people talk about the things that you can get comfortable from, I always take such a critical view where you'll see Democrats who will say things like, I just saw this the other day. I think it might have been the chair of the DNC. Yeah, it definitely was the chair of the DNC. But he came out, he's from Minnesota, right? Ken Martin, and he ran for DNC chair. He won it. And he gets up there and he's like, without having, SNAP benefits and without having Medicaid, my family would have never made it. I would never be where I am today. And I actually look at it the opposite way. Like, it was a thing, but maybe my family would have been more successful if there would have been work requirements, because my mom didn't not know how to work. She had literally worked for the IRS for 20 years before I was born. Like, literally, she worked for the IRS, actually like 18 years before I was born, and then she worked for the IRS about 4 years after I was born. But like, there was no work requirement. So it does become this thing where if you set a low bar, of course people aren't going to rise above that bar. It's the soft bigotry of low expectations that George W. Bush said. Like, this literally has played out not just academically, but I can tell you, I can point to people in my life that had such a low expectation and bar set that they rarely ever rise above it. Now, people like me, I'm a go-getter. From the time that I was a little boy, I was like, I'm never going to be on the system like this. I would rather be a drug dealer than be on the system. That's my mentality. That's what it was, because I saw how humiliating it was. I saw that, everyone around me just had this lesser life. And it's like, people are smart. Like, I had friends that were so brilliant, but that's what happens when you set them on this. And I wanted to point this out, right? So right now, in Minnesota, there's a handful of other states that are refusing to turn in their 2024 SNAP basically records. And it's all Democrat states. And it's this weird thing. But based off of the previous data that was submitted, all right, from 2019, specifically, this is State Representative Pam Altendorf put out there, that in 2019 to 2021, there was a 173.96% increase in SNAP issuances. So that's brand new SNAP benefits being issued. There was a 174% increase in the year 2021 in Minnesota. And so I actually took it a step further. I looked at more data, and I went back through Tim Walz's entire administration from the time that he was elected up until the most recent year of data, which is 2023. There has been a 196% total increase in issuances, 21% increase in the amount of people on SNAP. And so, again, to make this make sense, if only 21% more people join the program, but the total dollar amounts increase almost 200%, it means everyone's getting a lot more money. But the Minnesota population only grew by 1.8%. So to me, it just proves that this system, this program is so abused, so overused, that it's not actually fulfilling the thing that it was supposed to do. David, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You and I kind of have a similar story in that way. Like when I got out of the military, I struggled financially. I struggled with careers, finding kind of what I was good at, where I belonged, right? Because in the army, I was like, eat fast, sleep on a pile of rocks, or fall asleep anywhere, and kick indoors, right? Drew, you can kind of connect with that, and there were all these great programs for veterans here in Minnesota, and I didn't. I actively tried to avoid being on them. So I remember a long time ago, I heard somebody say, and this stuck with me, is that there's nothing free. If you get something for free, what it costs you is your dignity and your self-respect, and like that ability within yourself to believe that you can take care of yourself. And there was even a period of time in my life, I don't talk about this a ton, where I was a homeless veteran. I was living in a van. I didn't tell my family what was going on. My parents didn't know. I didn't put that burden on anybody because it was my responsibility. It was my life to figure out. And nothing builds get it done better than hunger or better than walking to work in a Minnesota winter. Uh, you'll figure it out real fast. I was like, I'm never doing that again. It's cold. I can't feel my feet. I'm Hispanic. I'm not built for this cold weather. It's certainly not built to be out here in it. Um, One thing I did want to interject real quick since we're on an election night and we're kind of going to be a little bit everywhere. It looks like Fox News just broke that the Virginia governor projections right now are Abigail Spanberger. Looks like Earl Sears is not going to win, which is unfortunate. It's weird. The first African American a governor, and it's female, and yeah,
Yeah, I
you would
mean,
think the DEI team would have set aside and been like, we'll let her win because
yeah. So
DEI
Abigail
for the win.
Spanberger was running in polling averages about 9 percentage points higher, even though that Winsome Earl Sears is the current lieutenant governor. She just didn't have the same like a likability, and I don't know exactly what that's about. But it is ironic, isn't it, that the NAACP and Barack Obama both came out in favor of Abigail Spanberger, even though she's a white upper middle class woman. Yes, she's a veteran and she served her country proudly, and that's all amazing. But they came out and they did not support who would be the first ever African American governor in the history of the United States. So it just means that it's all BS. They lie. All they care about is identity politics for their political party. They don't actually fundamentally believe that like there should be more diversity of governors or anything like that. Like they're not interested in that. So
It's crazy. What happened to Black
it's
Lives Matter? That. I feel like that wasn't that long ago.
go ahead, Bell. Yeah, it looks like you had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, honestly, one thing that really does shock, well, no, it doesn't even shock me at this point because I'm so used to it, is that the left will claim that they support someone until you don't follow their rules, until you don't believe in what they believe in, and then that's when they start criticizing you, they start attacking you, they start saying, oh, well, we don't want to we don't want to vote for you, we don't want you here because you don't believe what we believe in. They're all about they're all about inclusiveness and being equal, but they don't actually prove it. They're supposed to be the party of love, but they don't show love to people who don't believe what they believe in. All they really care about is if you believe what they believe and if you are going to support their ideology, which is not
Yep,
okay.
it's just a tool. It's a means to an end. It's something that they can trick the masses on, and it's just an easy kind of visual and pulls on heartstrings. And it's given didn't earn it. It's like, hey, we got something for you, or we have this candidate just because they fall in line, like you said. And it's no, it doesn't go to the person's character. It doesn't ring true. And like you were talking about, David, yeah, it's just having that dignity and stuff. Because yeah, if somebody wanted to say, hey, we're going to put you in this position because you're a veteran or because you did this or and we're going to get people to feel sorry for you, I'm like, no, I can't do that. It's got to be based on my values, my intelligence, my knowledge, skills, and abilities. It's got to be based on that, not some superficial thing.
100%. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
I think.
oh, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. I think David, you might have heard this too, where people ask you, "Hey, you're an immigrant. Why are you supporting conservative?" And I've heard that so many times recently. Yeah, just adding
You
on
and
to
I
that.
have a great answer to that question, and it's because we came from countries where they tried those policies and lots
Exactly.
of people died, and it didn't really work out for anybody, and that's why we're here. Speaking of,
Yeah.
that was the question I was going to ask real quick. AK, and you can answer this too, Jacob. Being that we're the slightly different melatonin colored people on the panel, uh, have you been hit with the race traitor statements or the whatever, anything like that? Like I have people that just they assume because I'm Hispanic that I vote left, and then when they find out I don't, I get told all kinds of fun things about my lack of loyalty to my ethnicity, and I'm like, most of the people in South America are Christians, and they're mostly conservative.
Dude, here's what's
I'm
super funny. Like this is how paradigms shift and people aren't necessarily aware. So if anyone paid attention to the 2024 election results, they would know that 55-ish% of Latino males voted for President Trump. And so the old paradigm is gone. Like if you are a Latino or Hispanic, non-white American, and especially if you are a legal or naturalized legal immigrant, but more specifically a naturalized citizen, and you're voting,
Not a criminal.
right? You're at like 70% approval rating for Trump. Now, here's the other thing that's funny. So again, you break down the data, you break down the statistics. In the state of Minnesota, black males specifically under the age of 40, voted for Trump at a clip of about 47%. Now, black males under 30 voted for Trump at a clip of about 56%. So we are no longer, like, if you look at us as young black or Latino males, we actually should be voting for Trump because that's how the election results came out. And when it comes to you, Jacob, to be honest, Asian Americans have been all over the place, and I know that you're not Asian American. I don't know if that's something that you aspire to one day to become naturalized, if you're going to go back and contribute to your home country. I'm not sure where that's at, and maybe you can feel free to answer that. But it's no longer that it doesn't work. The data doesn't show it anymore. I'm not saying now black women still vote overwhelmingly Democrat. Older blacks vote overwhelmingly for Democrats at like a clip of like 68, 70, 75%. So all of that is still happening, but yeah, that's just kind of where it is. But yeah, I'm curious, Jacob, do people, question your conservative values because you are not white? I mean, because yeah, basically.
Yeah, definitely do. Had many talks with friends. When I started posting the Turning Point, they asked me the question of, "Hey, do you realize that they are anti-immigration? Look at all of the tough laws that are created recently. With the new visa rule and so on. Why are you supporting them?" And the question is simple. The answer is simple. Is that I've been to many countries in my lifetime. I've been through the immigration systems of other countries, and no first world country that I've ever been to does partially enforce this immigration law. It's enforced if you are a visitor. Let's say if you go to your friend's house, you're a visitor. You respect the house rules of your friend. And it's as simple as that. And I see all this latest changes as not. It's not anti-immigration. It's in fact it is the opposite of that. It's pro-immigration, but through the proper ways. America wants the best from around the world, and to also cap it at a point where you are not displacing the jobs of Americans. The American First policy, it totally makes sense. So just from pure logic wise, that's why I'm supporting this. And I've talked to many of my international student friends. A lot of my friends are from Southeast Asia. They are students here, and yeah, a lot of my friends view Trump in a very positive light in terms of immigration. In reality.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm just wondering, and me speaking from white male, which is stupid to say, but yeah, I think it's more of a generational thing. So it's like
All opinions are
AK,
welcome
You touched
here.
on it. Just like because it's a lot of Cuban in Miami, like that kind of way. They come over and they're like, no, keep that socialism, communism away from us. I go to Miami every once in a while, and that's just how it is. It's religious, and then it's also they have a track record. Like they can compare it. They're like, we've seen that before. We did that, didn't even get the shirt, and lost everything that we had, you know. And there's no innovation. Like if you go, I haven't been to Cuba, but from what I hear, if you go to Cuba, there was no innovation. Everything is just a standstill, and then it's just like a decaying society. And you know, then you get the rich and powerful, or the influential, that control everything. And so I think it's just really just a more of a generational thing. So you get that first generation that comes over and they're like, no, we like the idea of this America, values, opportunity, give us a chance and we'll do awesome things. But then you start the ones that kind of go after all the benefits of SNAP, that everything, not contribute to the local community, to taxes, to employment, growing a family in the right kind of way like that. That's when it gets kind of crazy, because then, like I said, with the SNAP, then you're showing your kids by example, this is how you're supposed to do it, in not a positive way, that of giving back, instead of a more of a taking, or I deserve this. And that's not going to lead to a healthy society long term.
Yeah, one of the things that I was gonna, I guess, kind of throw out there too is like, when we see that these paradigms have shifted, it's so weird, because it's like the Democrats and the apparatus, the legacy media, the corporate mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, they just pretend that it's not true. And if, unfortunately, you're successful at doing that, you can completely create a narrative that is literally not based in truth. And the question is, who's paying attention? And what I've seen is that, the decision desk coming out, multiple decision desks, that Abigail Spanberger will be the next governor of Virginia, and that Winston Earl Sears is not going to be the next governor. It's so mind-boggling that in Virginia, right, which I would definitely describe, obviously, you know, it's been a purple state. You've been able to go from like Tim Kaine to Glenn Youngkin, and now here we are back to Abigail Spanberger, assuming that those results hold. But the Virginia Democrat class, they are 100% bought into a lot of this woke ideology, into the DEI. Because like, you got to remember that like Loudoun County in Fairfax, Virginia, is kind of like where a lot of this like unveiling of the woke nonsense when it comes to transgender ideology and its, you know, tie into Marxism, that's like where it started. But that state has a black competent woman who is a veteran and was literally the lieutenant governor, and they still don't vote for her. It's just, to me, it peels back the veil that the next time they try and use this nonsense where they try and pit race along political lines, just like, how dare you? And it just has to be incumbent upon us on the right to say, playing that game. Like, you don't even believe the stuff that you're saying. But I think if you guys have some kind of closing thoughts on that, I did want to move into the next portion where we ask our guests a little bit more about who they are, what they're doing, and you know, just be able to get to know them a little bit better, make sure that our audience can follow them and support them in whatever way possible. But unless anyone has any kind of closing thoughts on, you know, whether it's EBT, SNAP benefits, you know, the news of the election results coming in already, or anything else.
I would say just give everything you have, you know, kind of put it out there, network, have tough conversations, even if they don't feel great. Because, yeah, we're talking about benefits, we're talking about taxes, we're talking about helping people out, being transparent. David, like you said, when you were going through a tough time, I've been through my tough times as well. And it's just a matter, you got to have those tough conversations and ask for help in the closest way possible to you, rather than going right to the federal government. And if we do more of the proximity, I guess, helping out, that's going to be a better society overall.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, keeping like helping one another, keeping it local, and then reaching an arm across the aisle. One of the great things that I've been able to do a lot this last year is connect with I don't even like saying minority groups anymore because that's not even necessarily really an accurate statement, but just other cultural groups that have immigrated to this country and being able to poke holes in the lies that the Democratic Party talks to about things like DEI or race, and like this governor race is a great example of they don't really believe in what they say they believe in, and that those are conversations that you can actually have, and we can move the needle in the right direction to actually get these people voting more in line with their cultural and religious values versus what the lies they're being told when they immigrate and come through the process to get to this country.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's kind of move on. Just get a little bit more about each of our guests. I'm going to start with you first, Belle. Ladies first, of course. You had mentioned that you're going to school for law enforcement. I'm just super curious, like, what led you down that path? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you being a woman. I mean, listen, like you've probably seen the videos, right? People on the right will sometimes haze female officers and be like, this is why women shouldn't be in law enforcement. And we can get a little bit into that too. But yeah, what made you want to go into law enforcement?
So if you know who Brandon Tatum is, I've been watching him for years. So I actually enjoy his videos, and I'm trying to actually get him on campus. And so he's like one of the people who has actually made me want to become law enforcement. In, like the videos I've seen, I have seen a lot of the videos of like officers who get hazed. I've seen videos of officers who get injured on patrol, and that doesn't really scare me at all. Like I know that it's a job that's dangerous, but it doesn't really scare me because I know that if I die, I'll go to Jesus, and I'll be more than happy to be there with him. So it doesn't really scare me. I also want to be the person who's there for the people who are like in their darkest moments. I want to be the light for them, and I want to show them like compassion and be the one who they can look to for help when they need it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And like honestly, when you talk about Officer Tatum being the one that inspires you, like I think that speaks also to the power of like, some people will poo-poo the idea of like, oh, influencers don't matter, and it's like it 100% does. Just kind of like a follow-up question: do you want to specifically become a police officer, or are you going to go a different route? And then, how much time do you kind of have left until you're done with your degree? Because I believe the way that it works, and correct me if I'm wrong, Minnesota does require you to have either a bachelor degree or there's kind of like maybe an expedited type of law enforcement specific thing, and then you have to go then basically through the academy or something like that. So I'm just kind of curious, do you have a specific emphasis? Do you want to be a cop? Or are you going to be, some other field that would require you to have law enforcement degree?
Yeah, so actually, I want to work specifically with sex crimes and sex trafficking. That's specifically what I want to work with, and that's what I want to do. I have like 2 or 3 years left in my degree, and Minnesota is a state that requires you to at least have a 2-year degree to become a dispatcher, but like you have to have like a bachelor's to become an actual police officer, and if you want to get up higher up into the ranks, like you can stop at a 2-year degree and become one.
Are you thinking about like Minnesota specific? Would you go FBI or like special task force? Like, yeah.
So for that, I really do not care what state I'm in. Honestly, I care about who I'm helping. The women that are in that situation and how I'm helping them. So any state that needs that, I'm more than willing to be there,
Yeah,
That's a good way of thinking about it.
I would suggest go where the money is. Like if you're gonna be a cop, right, and you can help women no matter where you are, go whoever will pay you the most while you also get to do that. Yeah.
I mean, as much as I love the thought about getting more money, I don't want the money to corrupt me, which is why I do not care how much I get paid. As long as I'm helping other people who need the help, I'm more than happy to be there, So that's the way that I look at it. I do not care about the money. If people need help, I'm there.
No, I would. That's awesome. Yeah, I did option 2, like I said, at Mankato, if that's still a thing. Option 1 is more Minnesota. Option 2 can be federal or different things like that. Unfortunately, when I graduated with military experience and combat experience too, and a law enforcement degree, it was a hiring freeze in 2010. under the Obama administration, and they said we're not. I went through a whole year of application process. I'm talking like a grammar test, a math test, psychological evaluation. I did and actually had to go to Chicago. I could go to one of 8 different places across the country to have an interview, and I had to pay for it all myself, the plane, the hotel, and everything. And I go in, and it was the strangest interview. I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk about or whatever, but basically they just said like, they're like, we're going to tell you one word, and then you have 10 minutes to tell us a story about that. So they're like, integrity, go. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to talk about integrity and, an experience I had with that. And then they did that like, I think it was 6 times. So it was like an hour of 6 different words, and I'm just talking and the whole time. But anyway, I tested, I got it back, and I was about to go to the academy and beyond, but they're like, hey, now we're under a hiring freeze, so we'll keep your application for a year and your status, but after that, then you got to reapply. And of course, it went on for a couple years, and it was maybe a good decision, because then I fell into security, and then finance, or sales, and then finance, and then now I own my own business as a consultant. So all that to say, you never know where your life is going to take you, but go for different opportunities, go to career fairs, talk to all the different agencies, departments, do whatever you can, especially while you're in college too, to just get a good way to go it. So, but yeah, that's awesome. You got a great future ahead of you.
And I wanted to kick it over to you now, Jacob. You mentioned, now I wasn't 100% clear, so feel free to clarify it. Do you already have your bachelor and you're going for your master's in AI, or are you planning on finishing your bachelor and then going for your master's in basically some type of AI?
Yeah, so I finished my bachelor's last semester, and I've already started my master's program in AI. So I have about 1.5 years left. Hoping that I could contribute as much as possible to the Turning Point team, and let you all take over the torch. Won't be here for long, 1.5 years. But really, the reason why I chose that major is because I've always been a really technical person, and in fact, the primary motivation for me to study here is because I was inspired by United States. In a visual, I mentioned that how in the 60s, when America landed the first humans on the moon, that for me, that was a profound moment when I saw it and was young. And ever since, I've been super interested in aerospace, in technology in general. And there's no place in the world like the United States in terms of technology. And that's why I decided to come here, pursue a career in tech. I'm not too sure what holds, what holds for me in the long term, but I know that America is still the greatest country in the world, and today I'm actually pretty excited. Me wearing the NASA jacket because Trump just announced that he nominated Jared Isaacman as the administrator of NASA, and the guy, he's the founder of Swift4 Payments. We probably use it in our everyday. He is an astronaut himself and a pilot. He owns his own military fighter jet. So if there is a NASA administrator, it's going to be Jared Isaacman. And, we are so back. And
yeah,
it's nice.
You want to know what's funny about that? So Elon on X has been hazing the Trump administration over Sean Duffy, right? Yep. And because, Sean Duffy's been like wearing all these multiple hats, because basically the former guy that was in charge of NASA turned out to like be a Democrat and was like doing some stuff. And so Elon's been pushing for Isaacman. So this might be another olive branch from the Trump world to Elon. And I want to see the band get back together, because I think that Elon being overtly vocal supporting President Trump is only a positive thing. I think that the stupid fights that they had before, it's just like two of the most important men in the world, like having like basically like, no, I'm not this, you're that, and for them to be able to mend it. So that's awesome. I did want to ask you, so your long-term plans, like, are you planning on, basically finding a job and applying for a visa that way, or are you going to go back to your home country? Do you plan on trying to naturalize? Like, I know that that's a lot, but feel free to unpack however you want to. But I'm genuinely curious, man.
I'll just say that as a F1 as a student under F1 visa, it's a non-immigrant intent visa.
Gotcha,
Um,
gotcha.
so America is one of the greatest. It is the greatest country in the world, and we'll see what where things goes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but you know there might be a chance that I might be pursuing my PhD after my master's program too. So that would
cool.
be exciting. Just staying at the frontier of research, and that's where I like to be, research. And one day perhaps into politics.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, man, the way that I look at it, and I get that you have to be very specific about certain things, and I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything like that. But at the end of
No.
the day, like I am a believer of legal immigration.
Hmm.
I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, people coming here on whether it's F1 or even a H1B visa. Like, I understand that we should want to try and steal, and that's the word I'll use, the best and the brightest across the globe. That is my actual feeling. If someone comes here and they are very smart and they can, provide tremendously to the United States, I think they should come here. I also have a little bit of a lower bar when it comes to the skill level. If someone is truly determined they want to help contribute to America, I don't care, really, to be honest, if you're a janitor, if your actual intent is to make this country better, I don't care. What I don't agree with are replacing basically low skilled labor jobs with other people that will depress the labor market when they have no intention of actually making this country any better. They just come here for purely economic reasons. I'm not interested in those people. I'm interested in people that actually want to make this country better. So I'm just curious
Yeah.
from your
Or
perspective.
worse, they try to make this country like the country they just ran away from.
Well, that's a good
Exactly.
question. Let me jump in real quick and
Yeah, yeah.
just say that like look at the whole picture. Look at a whole, in the military, in the army, we dealt with portfolio or what was it called? Dossier. I can't remember what it was. It was like the high value target. You looked at the complete picture of a person, not just saying like, oh yeah, I'm just here for this or that for that one thing. And even it used to be when college was really competitive to get into. I'm speaking from my time around the 2000s, but it's like you had to have the ACT, SAT score up. You had to be able to pay for it. You had what else? A grade point average, sports, extracurricular activities, volunteering. Like you had to have all this stuff. And I know it's gotten a little easier over time, but imagine that with the immigration way to go about it. It's like, tell me what you're doing for your community. Like, what are your plans? Like, it could be, like you said, AK, a janitor, but what if it's like the Goodwill Hunting type janitor, or construction worker, whatever the case is. But it's like, let's look at your whole, like, in the military, we did like career trajectory, and even with a PV2 private that's 18 years old, it's like if you had a good leader, like we're gonna map out multiple versions of what your future could be, and we're gonna help you get there. So, yeah. I just want to interject and say that, but yeah, it's like we need a lot more planning when it comes to individuals.
Yep. And I want to add on to the point that AK mentioned as, with the recent Trump's proclamation where there's the $100,000 H-1B visa, and that whole thing caused a huge panic online. You have news reporters really saying that, oh, Trump is so anti-immigration. Look at this $100,000 thing. But just if you actually look closely into the details of the implementation, that $100,000 is only meant for if you're bringing H-1B workers directly from overseas. For instance, it's targeting one instance is Infosys that brought in almost 20,000 workers. These are low-skill workers directly from India through the H-1B program. And you have instances where, a worker was placed 8 times in the lottery to get the worker in. And this is the root cause of the problem is that you bring in low-skilled workers to replace American jobs. And Trump knows that this is happening, and he promised, he executed on his promise, and Sadly, the fake news twisted it as if it is something that is extremely anti-immigration, but it's not. It's for proper immigration. It's for limited immigration. It's open to people that believe in the American dream, that wishes best for this country, and at the same time, make sure that its own citizens are not, you know, impacted or classed out in terms of wage and so on. So yeah, it's that's the truth.
Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, and we just talked about long-term kind of vision for the two of you. What about short-term? What about how does the rest? I'm very short-term. Or I like to break down, reverse engineer, and look at kind of the steps. So this last quarter, Q4, what does that look for you? Because we get wrapped up in the holidays, but we still got to stay persistent and stuff like that. America Fest is coming up. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go every year that it's there, and just kind of do it. So I've been going the last 3 years now, and it just gets better each time, bigger, and a lot different things going on. So I'll be there. Will either you two be there?
You're in Arizona.
Yep, Arizona, Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's a good time of the year. Are you going to be there, or you sitting this one out?
We'll see you there. We'll be there.
Okay, awesome.
I'll be there.
No, that'll be a good time. Yeah, take that time. It's like 4 days. Network. You'll be around like-minded people. Talk about yourself and what you're doing, but then also get to know people from across the country, and just when I say network, learn from people. When you're talking, you're just saying the things that you already know, but when you're listening, you're actually learning things, and then that is a great opportunity to see people with different regions, different schools, and stuff like that, and take that stuff back. What I would do, and I bring a notebook everywhere. It's my Army thing, and so I would bring these notebooks and I just write and listen to the speakers, but then also in between time, and then before the day starts, after the day ends, take all that in and just kind of work your butt off is what I would say.
Yeah, so kind of to that point, Bell, what are your short-term goals? Is there anything that you have coming up that you would love support, whether it's people that are watching right now or watch later, or people that eventually stumble across this video that you want people to know of? Anything that, again, people can help you on?
Yeah, so actually we are doing an event here very soon. We are hosting Alan Shen, who is a speaker here, and he's gonna be talking about discussions of freedom and the CCP and the effect of Mao Zedong on China. And it is open to the students and the community, but please do sign up so that way we know how many people are attending. Also, another thing, if anyone here does want to support us, we do have a Facebook and we also have an Instagram. So we have our Facebook is Turning Point Mankato, and our Instagram, I just had it pulled up. It is Turning TPUSA _ MSU Mankato. So if anyone does want to follow us there, feel free to follow us. But yeah, I'm blanking.
No, so you also mentioned that you are going to be potentially, I guess, Jacob said he's going to AmFest. Are you going to AmFest?
I cannot. I
Okay.
am on the wait list for it, so hopefully.
Oh, gotcha.
Hopefully, but
Yeah, see, I'm rarefied air. I have VIP tickets already because of Turning Point Action, because I'm a member of the RNC. I get that. But I actually spoke at UMD Duluth. One of their speakers canceled kind of last minute, and I went up there, and there was like 70 people that showed up, and I did half-hour conversation about mass immigration and why we need it and why it's the morally righteous position. And then I took 45 minutes of Q&A. So if there's ever a desire for you guys to have me come down there, I can literally talk on any topic. I'm super well versed in knowledge. I won't mention political affiliation, so I don't put your 501c3 at risk. I can just talk about ideology, and I'm pretty good at it. So just to throw that out there. And then for you, Jacob, in the short term, anything that you have coming up that you want people to know more about, any way that people can help your chapter, anything at all?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that we are strategically making sure that most of our events are going to be community event, because we know how important the community is, and we have benefited immensely from the community, which is gracious enough to provide us with donations, and that's how we are able to continuously host events. And really, the best way to support us is, if you see our posts online on Facebook or Instagram, just drop us a little comment, say, hey, just drop some positive comments. We, as Turning Point, we do see quite a bit of negative comments, but it's super nice to see that how positive the community is. Most of the comments are extremely heartwarming for all of us, and that makes the effort worth it. Just come to our events, support us as much as possible on our social media. Yeah, and we'll make sure that the conservative voice on campus never dies, and that's really what we are trying to do here, and spread, educate people on the ideas of conservatism, and also the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of Q4, we have the Alan Shan event upcoming on November 10th. It's going to be on campus. We are thinking of 1 or 2 more events to close off Q4. December is a really busy time for students, and and getting ready for NFest. So expect 1 or 2 more events for the rest of Q4.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing having you two on. Listen, I'm wearing a Freedom shirt. This is kind of like a bootleg knockoff. On the back it says, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. But also there was an activist named Scotty Pickett that's up in Park Rapids area. Huge conservative. He unfortunately passed away pretty quickly. He got diagnosed with cancer. But yeah, this is that, and more importantly, Turning Point. I honestly, truly think that Turning Point USA is the engine that will usher in the next generation. All of you Zoomers, all you Gen Zers, and Gen Alpha coming up, to be able to actually make this country significantly better, because we are coming upon perilous times. Just about 15 minutes ago, breaking news, Decision Desk is calling the Virginia Attorney General's race for Jay Jones. And I'll remind people, Jay Jones is the guy whose text messages were leaked that he fantasized about murdering Republicans, and that their fascist children deserve to die, they're evil, and that the only way to get Republicans to move on gun actions is for them to hold their dying children. It looks like Decision Desk is calling that race. So these are the times that we're in. Even though we get these huge wins in 2024, this is what this electorate looks like, and this going back and forth. So we need Turning Point USA to continue to have the impact that it's had, especially on college campuses, to reverse this indoctrination, because things are going to get hairier before they get better. And so I just want to thank you too. I'm going to go through, I'm going to get the final thoughts, even though I've talked a lot already. But David, please, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? And closing thoughts before we end tonight's show.
Yeah, absolutely. Great topics, great guests. It's been a great show. Like I said, I enjoy getting to know everybody on the panel a little more every single time we do an episode, and just kind of unpacking the Culture Warriors Unchained lore that we all seem to bring to the table. As you can find me, hopefully I'll be going down to Mankato again to help them out with some events. And I might be looking at doing something up here at the local chapter in the cities. Outside of that, this weekend, because like I said before, conservatives, Christians, we need to get involved in pop culture and in just the culture in general. There's going to be a huge event here in the Twin Cities where all the nerds are going to be gathering. I don't want to give it a huge plug because I think it's run by a lot of people that are on the other side of the aisle, but I will be there. I will be there with all of the nerds dressed as superheroes, and there's going to be some celebrities there from some of our favorite sci-fi movies and things like that. And I just think it's good that we have people like us in that space as well. As for finding me, you can find me on all the socials, David Webster. It's Webster50 on X. And I look forward to continuing the conversation and keeping it going with everybody.
Absolutely. And Drew, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? anything that you want to specifically shout out?
Yep, absolutely. Find me on X, Drew Outstanding, on YouTube. That's more of my adaptive sports. So I'm working on sit down skiing, adaptive rock climbing, adaptive cycling. I got a new recumbent bike that I've been crushing the trails lately. So I've been having a blast on that. So yeah, even if you're going through a tough time physically, mentally, all that kind of stuff, there are options out there. And especially like I'm trying to get away from all the pharma and medications and stuff like that. They serve their purpose in some areas. In some areas, they do more harm than good, in my opinion and experience. Not medical advice, but yeah. So I'm just kind of getting out there. So on my YouTube channel, Operation Outstanding in Field is where you find those. And I'm going to do some wild things. And then as far as speaking engagements go, I'm doing some filming down in Austin, Texas later this week with a CHD, Children's Health Defense. And so they got a conference going on. Maybe I can make it to that. We'll see. So you just got to get out there and just, it's always a no until you ask. And so I'm just clawing my way and trying to make a difference here. And then, later on, I can talk about it more on future episodes. But Turning Point, America Fest, I'm so excited for that. And it's just going to be absolutely amazing. Get out there, support it in any way possible. They stream it as well. So if you can't make it there. But yeah, that's my thing. I'm excited. This podcast is going awesome each week, and we're just going to keep building. So thanks for David being the producer, as well as co-host, and a couple great guests, Bell and Jacob. I'm also happy to get down in Mankato. I live somewhat close by, so I can jump on the road and get out there too, do some speaking engagements, consulting, just have a backboard to kind of bounce ideas off any way I can help. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, we would absolutely love to have you come and speak for a meeting or something. We can definitely try to plan something out.
Yeah, let's talk offline.
All right.
Any closing statement?
Love it.
No.
Yeah. And before we go, Bell, any links that you want people to follow you, any of your social medias? Same for you, Jacob.
So everyone who is watching or find us by accident can follow me at Bell Revolution. And you can find me on those on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on
Revolution.
Instagram too, Jacob Space 551, because I like space. But yeah,
I love it. I love it.
yeah, the only thing I think the best closing thing I gotta say is that to all the conservatives watching, as conservatives, we must uphold our own values. Let's show what the left we are. We are the party of we accept everyone. We view everyone as equal. And just welcoming, and violence is never a tactic that we'll use. So we'll just hold yourselves to those principles, and we'll prove them wrong.
Don't cower in fear, honestly.
Yeah.
Don't be scared. They can't really do anything to you. Unless you want to ruin their lives. I mean,
Yeah, the worst that anyone can do is they can end your life. That's the worst that they can do. And if you believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, you ain't got nothing to worry about. And if you don't quite know who that Jesus guy is, feel free to reach out to myself. Sounds like feel free to reach out to Bell as well. Feel free to reach out to Jacob. Feel free to reach out to David. Feel free to reach out to Drew. All of us, actually. So yeah, I mean, if that's where you're at, but that's the whole point, right? Is that I think we have to live brave. We have to be, steadfast in our beliefs. And for those of you that aren't quite there, there's so many resources to help you get to that point. I think the Turning Point is a great way to get there. Obviously, reaching out to any of us, reaching out to a local church. I mean, there's just so many possible resources to be able to find that courage to be able to plant your feet and say, this is this one beautiful, precious life that we have. And so let's use it to stand for things that matter. Myself, you can follow me basically on Facebook, Instagram, and on X at Real AK Kamara. You're going to get a smattering. I put out content, probably 3 to 5 videos per week. I am posting on X constantly. I love to make spicy memes, funny jokes, all types of stuff, just to kind of show like the more lighthearted part of who I am. You can also follow me on TikTok at AK Kamara. I'm like been hovering at 149,800 followers for like literally 2 months. So hopefully you can follow me there and push me up so I can finally crack 150. Make sure that you follow this podcast. We have our YouTube page at Culture Warriors Unchained. You can follow us on X at CW Unchained. And you can also find us on Facebook if you're, a boomer or even an older millennial like myself. Facebook.com/Culture Warriors Unchained. We are going to do this every week on Tuesdays. That's the plan. Going live at 6, running about 2 hours, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. And we will continue to have on great guests, have meaningful conversations so we can really bring culture, politics, and honestly, religion, to the forefront so we can actually have an impact here on the state of Minnesota, because I think that matters more than anything at the end of the day, being able to bring people together and say, we're not going to do this whole leftist, Marxist thing that is anti-God, anti-human. And that's it. I'm AK Kamara, Drew, David. It's been awesome. Great episode 2 in the books. Belle, Jacob, thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your night.
You too.
See you
Thank you
next
for
week.
having us.
Thank you for having us.